Sir Edward Dahlengrig was a man of ambition and of scars. Born to a modest gentry family in Sussex, he had crossed the sea to France as a young knight in service of the English crown. There, amid the bitter campaigns of the 100 Years' War, he learned both the art of war and the hunger for fortune. When he returned home, his sword was stained with experience and his purse with gold. Marriage brought him the manor of Bodiam, a quiet corner of the Weald, where streams crossed fertile land and the air smelled of apple orchards and damp earth. But Dahlengrig's eyes saw more than fields. He saw a symbol. In 1385, as fears of French invasion spread across England, he rode to the king and obtained a license to crenellate, royal permission to raise stone walls, towers, and battlements. It was the birth certificate of a dream. With the king's seal upon his parchment, Dahlengrig returned to Sussex and began to build, not merely a fortress, but a statement to the world that here stood a man of power, wealth, and vision. From the marshy hollows, men dug and shaped an immense moat, diverting waters from the nearby streams until they encircled the island like a silver belt. Stone by stone, the quadrangular fortress rose, towers at each corner, the great gatehouse flanked by turrets and iron portcullis. Within its square walls, halls and kitchens, chambers and chapels were arranged in perfect symmetry around a courtyard. The air smelled of lime mortar and oak beams. The clang of hammers echoed across the Weald. When the castle was finished, it seemed less a fortress of war than a palace of power. Its reflection on the water was serene, its defence impeccable, yet it was also a home. The gatehouse, with its carved heraldry, welcomed guests as much as it repelled enemies. To Dahlengrig, Bodiam was both shield and crown, the embodiment of a knight's triumph and his legacy. He died a few years later, leaving behind his masterpiece, encircled by the moat's silent waters. Through the generations that followed, Bodiam remained a proud estate, passed between noble families, the Lewknaws, the Tuftons, its walls weathering the winds of history. Knights gave way to gentlemen, banners to family crests, and war to feasting. The moat no longer guarded against French raids, but reflected the quiet prosperity of England's country life. Children laughed where guards once stood, gardens replaced training yards, yet beyond the tranquility, England itself was changing. The medieval world was giving way to something new, a land of commerce, reformation, and politics. The stone walls of Bodiam began to whisper their age. The storm came in the 17th century, when England tore itself apart in civil war. By then, Bodiam belonged to John Tufton, the second Earl of Thanet, a loyal royalist. The countryside bled with the clash of Roundhead and Cavalier. Bodiam, though remote, could not escape the politics of rebellion. When parliamentary forces gained the upper hand, Bodiam's guns were silenced, its bridges destroyed, the proud castle was slighted, its inner buildings tore down, its strength undone, to ensure it would never again be used for war. The moat filled with stagnant water. The gatehouse became a hollow shell, Owls nested where knights once dined, and ivy crept across the stone like time's slow handwriting. For 200 years, Bodiam slept beneath its veil of ruin. In the 18th century, England fell in love with its own ruin. Artists came with sketchbooks, poets sighed at the melancholy beauty of Bodiam's reflection on its still moat. The castle, overgrown and half forgotten, became a symbol of medieval nostalgia, a dream of chivalry lost. In 1828, as stone robbers eyed its walls, the eccentric John Mad Jack Fuller, a local squire known for his fiery temper and generous heart, bought the ruin outright, simply to save it from destruction.
Let it stand for the honour of our forefathers,
he declared. He cleared the weeds, patched the most dangerous gaps, and kept the ruin intact. Later, the estate passed to George Cubitt, Lord Ashcombe, who preserved the site as a romantic relic, ivy-draped, picturesque, beloved by painters and early tourists. Then, in the early 20th century, a new saviour came, Lord Curzon of Keldeston, Viceroy of India, and one of Britain's great imperial statesmen. Curzon saw Bodiam not a ruin to be pitied, but a monument to be rescued. In 1916, he bought the castle and began a vast programme of restoration. Workmen drained the moat, uncovered the original bridge footings, and excavated the courtyards. Curzon's teams removed the ivy that had strangled the walls for centuries and repaired stonework with surgical precision. When he walked through the gatehouse, Curzon said, "This is England, noble, steadfast, and enduring." He died in 1925, leaving Bodiam to the National Trust, with instructions that it be preserved for all generations, and so it was. Under the National Trust, Bodiam's story entered its final act, not of decline, but of stewardship. Archaeologists mapped its buried secrets, historians traced its lineage. The moat was refilled, this time not for defence, but for beauty. Home to swans, fish, and ghosts of soldiers long gone. Visitors came by the thousands, walking across the wooden bridge where Dalingrig's men once stood guard. Children gazed up at the towers, imagining dragons and knights. Scholars saw the architectural poetry of late medieval ambition, and as the sun sets across the Weald, its light rippling across the water, Bodiam remains what it has always been, a monument to dreams in stone, a knight's pride, a ruin's romance, a national memory.